almost never do I plan a film. It just, something comes up in the middle of a day of washing and I'm thinking, man, I should share that with you. Something I've promised for a very long time was a snout mount. I get pig skulls sometimes and the hunter says, I think I may have hit it in the head. And then you turn it around and it looks like that. And I'm thinking, you did hit it in the head. So I'm gonna take a Sawzall, cut it right down the top, and then I'm gonna show you how to do a snout mount today. So here's our two pieces. We'll be doing more cuts. These will be in line. This one's got a big old growth right here, and I want to know what's going on there. It's gonna make it interesting. But we're just gonna drop these right down in our boil, clean them like we would traditionally, and then I'll show you how to mount them to a panel.
Now I did this snout mount today because I was working on a whole bunch of skulls so I could just throw it in the bottom of the pot. Once all the other stuff was clean, I dumped out that pot and that snout was ready to rock. I pulled both tusks, I snapped the nose out of the inside of that. I almost had to do no power washing. I pulled teeth, dropped it down in a color batch, which is peroxide and water at a boil. I give it some time to do its thing, kind of fall in love with all that good stuff in the pot. Then I pull it out, rinse it clean, and set it out to dry.
Hey, welcome back, Yelp Beans. Come here, say hello. Come here. Say hello. My name is Mr. Bean, and I'm the greatest dog in the whole world. Today, we're gonna finish the European snout mount. So you could see I just took that pig and took a Sawzall and cut the front off, and then I cut the back off. What I've done since then is glued all the teeth back in. So the hard part now is getting them square. This one has got that real weird growth here where it's calcified, and so essentially there was an abscess in this tusk. This tusk is substantially shorter than this one. I do have these pulled out. I glued them in to look more impressive. So, and I used just this little hardwood panel. I actually ordered these on accident from Walnut Creek. Accident meaning they were just too small, but I love them because they fit a tusk mount just perfect. I believe this is a 6x8 that's going to go on like that. And if you look at the big gap between the panel, I want to clean all that up. So I'm going to take a bandsaw or something and just trim that nice and clean. What happens is your Sawzall is not going to cut the porcelain or the teeth, so when I hit it with a hammer, it just breaks it. So I'm going to clean up the teeth there, and then I'm going to try and get these about the same length. You can see how much I got to cut off there. Okay, so that's what you're going to watch pretty much in fast forward right now. And teeth, it's just like a dentist office in here right now. It just stinks. Teeth cutting porcelain stinks. Is it porcelain or is it enamel? I'm filling tusks now with a 2-part epoxy. Actually, I'm using this stuff right here. Super clear. Found it on Amazon. It's a 50-50 mix, but I filled the tusk with it. It's cheap, and I use epoxy for everything. So I had a bunch of leftovers, so I just filled these upper tusk, the whitters, with them, and I got a little bit of a shiny spot on there. If you ever, just because it drained out the back, and I wasn't thinking. So if you ever have that, I just take a little cordless Dremel and just scuff the shiny. Then it doesn't look like you spilled glue all over your mount. Okay. The one I'm looking at this here, it's rocked forward, so I'm going to cut this one similar. Now, if you had one of those big disc sanders, you know, you could put it against there and flatten it out, flatten it out, flatten it out. But the problem is teeth don't sand. They don't hardly cut worth a darn. So I just kind of get it close, and then I'll just fine tune. I'll just keep shaving so it sits on my panel just the way I want it. Beans loves him some bone dust. Okay, so I got it where I like it. It's not perfect, and you don't ever count on it being perfect. You're dealing with bone and all that stuff. You can see how out of whack that jaw is. And I've got a little bit of lift on this side, but I'm not super concerned about it. I'm making level contact this way, if you know what I mean. You have to just use your eye. You're just guessing. This is not a show taxidermy piece. This is just a representative of an animal that you harvested and that went through an accident, essentially. So I take a pencil and mark my panel on the outside of the jaw. If you can see on the snout, there's two little grooves right there and there. That's where I'm going to run the screw, or you can run them here. Doesn't matter, but you can run them there.
I'm going to speed this up because I don't want to bore you. Essentially drill all your holes and then take a little countersink bit and clean up all your hole edges. With that done, set your hanger next because it's much easier to do with nothing on the panel than it is to do when there's a snout on the front. I almost don't even know how to film this part, but essentially you're going to screw into the teeth area or that upper little ridge on the nasal canal there. I just have to really feel around. I run a micro pilot hole and then I screw the snout to the panel, if you will. It's just going to take a little finagling because they're all just a little bit different.
They don't always work perfect. So because of this one's just nasty abscess, and because I have this tusk pulled out so far, where I put my pilot holes for my panel is right in the tusk canal. I don't know what the name is, but where that tusk rides, it's hollow instead of coming up under the base of the teeth. Now I could just go and re-drill those holes. Actually, I'll try and re-drill those holes. Otherwise, what I would do in this situation is just Bondo these or use some sort of epoxy to fill them so I have something to grab with the screw. I also was noticing that the inside of this one here is touching the panel, and so it's giving it a bit of a gap. So I'm gonna make just a few adjustments. I'm gonna sand or file the inside of this one down, and then I'll move those holes up. But I think I'm going to wind up filling these. Just keep in mind that you may have to do some filler. All that's you won't be able to see, but it's give you something to get that screw into. You don't need a lot of integrity. You're not having to hold up much. You just don't want it to, you just don't want it to look bad. Let's re-drill our holes to see if I can make it work that way. I'm struggling to find the right place to film this thing. So, the pig snout mount. It's just a super fun, kind of crazy, cool idea. It's not an exact science. It's not super easy, but essentially you're just cutting off the front of that snout, cleaning it traditionally, and then finding a way to screw it to the panel. I think they're bitching for a headshot pig. Thanks like always for watching. Until next time.